Hi, my name is Anitra Hollman. I'm the oldest daughter of Johnny Hollman Sr. First of all, I want to just say thank you. I want to thank the people that's been standing with us, that's been supporting us through all of this. It's been very hard. Just like Attorney Davis said, it's now been 2 months since our father has been gone. It's been very devastating for us. It's been very hard on us. I don't want to say the pleasure, but I was the one on the phone call with him that night of August the 10th when he called me. And my dad begged out several times for help. But it was different because his cry for help, he was really seeking help and he was pleading for help. But it was a different kind of outcry when I heard it because he called me and he said, baby, that's just like if you have a child. You want to go to their aid when they're hurting or when they're in distress or if somebody's doing something to them, and that's just how I felt that night. My daddy had 5 children. He had 5 children, 26 grandchildren, 10 great-grandchildren. But he just wasn't a father to us. He just wasn't a grandfather to our children. He was a father to the community. He was a grandfather to the community, our friends, our other family members, their children. That's the type of man our father was. And again, I've said it before, we want the narrative that's been placed out there, that's been put out there on his name. We want that narrative changed. We want his name restored. We want our father to be able to rest in peace. And right now, I don't feel like he's resting in peace. We want this video to be released. And we want the video to be released now. We understood yesterday, we did have a meeting with the DA, and we thanked her. We understood exactly what she said to us, and we hope that she understood where we was coming from. Because at the end of the day, this is our new normal. That was our father. That was our family member. And the ones that has been sticking by our sides, the ones that have been marching with us, supporting us through it all, we thank each and every one of y'all. But this is not the end. We got to keep fighting. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep going. Because this is just one of the things that we got, which was determination. But this is not all that we're looking for. We want justice, and we want justice now for our father. Yes, it may take a while, but at the end of the day, we want to see what this justice look like. And for us, that's this officer not only being terminated. We don't want him to ever work at another police department. We don't want him to ever do this to anyone else. Yes, we want him prosecuted. Yes, we want him jailed. Yes, we want this video to be released so the world can see what happened to our father on August the 10th. It's no way that we should have buried our daddy. He had so much more to live for. It's no way that we need to be going to the cemetery visiting our daddy while this 23-year-old Kiran Kimbrough gets to sit at home, gets to watch his TV shows, gets to do what he want to do. And who knows, maybe he have kids, maybe he don't, but he'll have an opportunity for that. We won't. We don't have that anymore because he stripped us of that. He's taken that away from us. Me and my family, we are suffering. We are hurting. My siblings, them, we are crying, and we're crying out. We want the people to continue to stand with us. We want the community to continue to rally around us. And we want justice for our father. When we get justice for our father, then we feel like we've got justice for so many that didn't get this opportunity, that didn't get this chance. Yes, we celebrate the victory. Of course, we thank God. We praise God for it. I was shouting in my living room when I got the text message. I was crying in tears. I was on the phone with my sister. I called, my brother even texted me. I was praising God because guess what? I know that as long as God is in the midst of this, we're going to be all right. Because they said when all of us, 2 or more, are gathered in his name, we're going to see change. We're going to see change. All things work for the good of those that love the Lord. See, we was raised up like that. That's because our daddy taught us. See, that's what we had. That's the kind of father we had. A loving father, a God-fearing father, a father that not only took care of his family, but he took care of other families. He made it where other families could live in their households. He made it where other families could move around. But we don't have that no more. So yes, we're seeking justice. Yes, we want justice. Yes, we want this video to be released. And we want the world to see it. It's no way we are comfortable or all right with a 23-year-old black man killing another black man that was 62 years old. My daddy wasn't a threat to him. Not at all. He wasn't a threat with him at all. See, my daddy could have held on to him. He could have prayed with him. He could have talked to him. He even tried to de-escalate the situation by saying, you know what, I'll sign the ticket. I'll sign the ticket. It's no way now the chief is going to come back and say, oh, well, we terminated him because a supervisor wasn't there. That's absurd. Come on now. That's BS. Don't blow smoke on us. We don't like that. We don't like that. Don't do us like that, because we still hurting and we sensitive to this situation. Don't do us that way. Please don't. Because that makes us feel some type of way, and we don't feel like you're truly with us. Not when you're doing that. Say what it is. Put it out there. Be honest about it. Come on, let's be transparent. You know how he passed. You know how he died. You know at the hands of who he died from. Put it out there. But don't keep giving us this BS. We're tired of it. We're tired. We're not getting no sleep. We're not getting no rest. We're not eating. Our children are falling apart, and we tired of it. We're not going to continue to take this, and you're not going to keep smearing his name. You're not going to keep talking about him in that way, because that's not who Johnny Hollman Sr. was. He was a man of God, not just a deacon. He was a man of God. And as long as God stays in the midst of this, we're going to be all right, because like Reverend Shannon Jones said, justice is going to roll down. It's going to roll down, whether they want it to or not. God's word will not come back void. And you better understand that. We're going to get justice. Thank you.
The family of an Atlanta deacon who died while in police custody is calling for the arresting officer to be charged. Good evening. I'm Faith Jesse.
And I'm Jennifer Bellamy. Johnny Hollman's family speaking just hours ago following the announcement that the officer had been fired. Kiran Kimbrough, now off the force following Hollman's death, ruled a homicide by the Fulton County Medical Examiner. 11 Alive's Doug Richards is live tonight with more on what Hollman's family had to say.
Yeah, APD fired the police officer who tased Johnny Hollman today, but they said that the reason for it was because the officer had declined to summon a supervisor during the confrontation, which ultimately killed the church deacon. After that refusal, after Hollman's refusal to sign a citation on scene, Officer Kiran Kimbrough used his taser on Hollman, sending the man in his 60s into cardiac arrest. The announcement of the firing was a small bit of good news for Hollman's family, who had been demanding the release of body camera footage of the incident and have called on prosecutors to file charges against the officer who had worked for less than 3 years at APD.
We want to see what this justice look like. And for us, that's this officer not only being terminated. We don't want him to ever work at another police department. We don't want him to ever do this to anyone else.
So APD not only announced the firing, but they also announced some procedural changes, including one that would require a police officer who is issuing a citation to a motorist who is reluctant to sign it, to merely tell the motorist that he doesn't have to sign it, that it's not an admission of guilt, and then sign the citation themselves saying that the motorist refused to sign. For the family of the man in this case, Mr. Hollman, this is one small step, they say. They want, as we've heard them say, prosecution. And they say that they want ultimately there to be wheels of justice turned in this case in the killing of this man during this traffic incident. Live in DeKalb County, Doug Richards, 11 Alive.
2-year-old deacon at the Lively Stones of God Ministries Church of Atlanta died in the incident on August the 10th as officers responded to investigate a traffic accident. An autopsy report concluded Hollman died of cardiac dysrhythmia resulting from the tasing.
Wait until somebody in our family gets arrested, perhaps might even survive the police interaction, but then they die in the cells of Fulton County.
Exactly.
Enough is enough, y'all. And so for many of you who have watched us go on and on about stopping Cop City, this is your moment. This is your chance. Yeah? Because you don't have to do everything everybody else has done, but you must do something. And you don't have to have anything to do something. And this something on this day, this moment, this weekend, we need you to find us. We need you to come to our offices at 711 Catherine Street and sign this petition. That is an easy ask. That is an easy ask given the weight of grief that is sitting in this room. That is an easy ask. And so we need people to step up to the plate because, again, we've seen this over and over again. And if we want a future of Atlanta where this isn't the story of the day, then I need you to stand up and do something about it. And I need our politicians to be honest with us, to at least have a righteous analysis about what time it is. Because we are betraying our people if we continue to pretend as if training police, this thing is going to get better, y'all. This is bad governance at this point. And any other institution would have been closed, defunded, all the things with a track record the way we see it. And so I compel you again, make your way to 711 Catherine Street, Southwest, Atlanta, Georgia, 30310. Every day, we're here every day, 11 to 8. Get here, sign this. Be a part of something bigger than yourselves, because our politicians have proven they ain't gonna do it. We must do it. We must do it. Our families must organize, in which they have. We must do it, y'all. We belong to one another. And if we are ever to change the future of this city, we damn sure better start now.
On to the recent termination of Officer Kimbrough by the Atlanta Police Department. We have with us family of Chairman Deacon Johnny Hollman Sr. We also have organizers and students and community activists who have stood with this family. It has now been 2 months. On August 10th, this tragedy began for this family. On August 10th, it was that night that this deacon, coming from a Bible study, was in a minor traffic accident, called for police, waited for police as any good citizen would, and then was ultimately assaulted, forced to the ground, tased, punched, and killed by Officer Kimbrough. And so we want to continue to center this family. We've asked for Anitra Hollman to be right here in between us, because we want the focus to be on this family and what they have lost. It's not about the lawyers. It's not about the organizers. It's not about anyone other than this family and our support for them. And so we're honored to represent a family that has shown the courage and the resiliency. We live in communities that tell us not to speak up, not to go against law enforcement, not to challenge this system. But this family has challenged this system, and the community has rallied behind them. We have pastors here. We have community organizers. We have students who have heard their call and their cry for help. That night, Deacon Hollman yelled out, "Help me." Think about it. That someone who has called the police and waited for them, but when he's encountered by the police, while he's being assaulted by the police, he has to yell out, "Help me." That's the absurdity of what happened on August the 10th. Yet, we are here to acknowledge that out of the 4 demands that this family has made and the community has supported, today 1 of them have been met. The 4 demands have been clear. Release the tape. Release the tape. We've been clear about that. This family has wanted that because of the way their father has been depicted in initial police reports and press releases. Even up until today, the same narrative is being parroted by the Atlanta Police Department in their release about him being combative, resisting arrest, and all of these narratives that make him seem as though he was the criminal, when we have said from the very beginning that the only criminal that night was Officer Kimbrough. And the fact that they would continue to state this narrative is both sad and unfortunate, and it's very telling as to how far they will go to slander this good man's name. The second demand has been that this officer be terminated. And we know that having done this, our firm having done this kind of civil rights work for many years, that it's not common that the officer is terminated. There are people right now who are still on the job after having killed a citizen of Georgia, right in this, as we speak today. And so we recognize this as a victory for this family, but with many more to come. The third thing was that this officer needed to be arrested. And while we wish no one to be placed in the very dangerous confines of the Fulton County Jail, if that's where they take criminals, that's where he must go. And then the fourth and final is the full, complete prosecution of this officer until he is convicted and ultimately sentenced. Those have been the four demands. The family's been consistent on those demands, and this community has backed them. I want to say before Attorney Spence addresses the Atlanta Police Department statement that we thank the people of Atlanta. We're not talking about the city. We thank the people who have come now to 3 different marches and protests. The first one being just days after they lost their father, and those organizers, some of whom are here today, have been standing with this family for 2 months. The second one was when the students at the Atlanta University Center, Spelman, Morehouse, Clark Atlanta students, Georgia State, Emory students came and marched from CAU all the way to CNN. And then finally, the family asked the community to come out and march with them. And that march was from a park near where Mr. Hollman lived, as we walked past where he ultimately took his last breath, and then on to City Hall. And so we thank the people. We give credit to the people. We know that it's power with the people. That is what our firm has been based on. That is not just the lawyers, but it requires the people having an elevated consciousness about this system that continues to oppress largely black, brown, and poor people. And so with that, we are grateful. We lift up, I invite Attorney Harold Spence, our law partner who has been working on this litigation for this, to share his thoughts as it relates to the statement that was provided by the Atlanta Police Department. Attorney Spence.
Now here's a public service announcement to all the ignorant people in the back. I keep hearing, oh, he didn't follow protocol. This is how it goes. No. What this officer did to Deacon was not necessary. Deacon begged and pleaded for this young rookie to call a sergeant, but he wouldn't. Now, as far as the footage, the family and their attorneys are trying to get the police department to release the footage because they've seen the footage, so they know what's on it. And they want the public to see this. But the PD, they won't release it. And you already know why. So for everybody in the back that keeps saying that he did something wrong and it must have been warranted, no, it wasn't. Not at all. We're not just making this up. The evidence is there. The family has seen it. They just want everyone else to be able to view what they viewed.
My name is Harold Spence. I'm a partner with the Davis Bozeman Johnson law firm. We were elated today when we heard that Officer Kimbrough had been terminated from his employment with the City of Atlanta's Police Department. Immediately, we were curious as to what the basis of that termination would be. When we read the police chief's statement telling us what the basis of that termination was, quite frankly, we were a little deflated. The statement said that the officer was terminated because he failed to have a supervisor on the scene at the time he began efforts to effect the arrest of Deacon Hollman. Are you kidding me? Because he didn't have a supervisor on the scene? Again, that's why we believe it's even more incumbent that this video be released. Because I guarantee you that when you see this video, your thought won't be, where was the supervisor? Why didn't he call the supervisor? You'll be asking yourself, why wasn't there some mention of the leg sweep that took this deacon to the ground? Why wasn't there some mention of the brutalizing that he took, the physical brutalizing that he took at the hands of this officer? Why wasn't there some mention of his repeated pleas, I can't breathe, that grew increasingly in desperation? Why wasn't there some mention of that? Why wasn't there some mention of the repeated tasing of Deacon Hollman? Not a word. Instead, we're told that he got fired because he didn't summon a supervisor to the scene. So it's this kind of technical gamesmanship where you achieve a laudable end in terminating him, but at the same time, you don't address the real problems. That wasn't why Deacon Hollman died, because there wasn't a supervisor there that night. He died because this officer, this obsessed officer, brutalized him, a 23-year-old brutalizing a 62-year-old elder. That's why he died. So if we're going to be transparent and honest, because we want to have better relations between citizens and the police, we got to be not just transparent, we got to be honest about what happened and why this officer got fired. I'm quite curious to hear the chief explain why there's no mention of those other factors that I just talked about. Right. Why the only basis for this officer's termination, at least that has been publicly disclosed, is that there was no supervisor there. Stop playing these shell games. Let's be honest. Let's acknowledge what happened. And like Attorney Davis, I was disappointed as well when appended to the chief's statement was a prior statement that the city had released. This prior statement talked about Deacon Hollman being combative. That's just not true. Him not following directions, that's just not true. He never refused to do anything that the officer asked him to do. And so we're assuming that by the time the city put out this official statement, that they had actually had a chance to view the video. But notwithstanding the presumptive effort by them to view the video, what did they do? They put out a false narrative that smears Deacon Hollman. And it's a narrative that will be clearly and unequivocally refuted by the video once it's released. We've seen a lot of videos since 2020. While this video perhaps is not as graphic as that in which George Floyd was killed, it does share a commonality with the George Floyd video. The killing is equally senseless. Made no sense. And that's what the chief's statement doesn't address. The senselessness of what happened and how it could have been avoided. And it should have been avoided. We shouldn't even be here today. Exactly. This should have been a routine matter that involved the deacon being given a citation, being allowed to go home, and he would have continued his life. Yet, he ended up dying on a cold Atlanta street on August 10th, 2023. It's sad, it's unfortunate. While we celebrate this victory, we are trying to change the system that creates people like Officer Kimbrough. That's right. And this system gets perpetuated when you have official findings for somebody's termination that don't address the underlying facts of what caused someone's death. And the chief of police's statement does not address the underlying irrefutable facts that this video will establish. Again, we're grateful for the termination, but let's not just be transparent, City of Atlanta. Let's be honest as well.
If you've made it to the end of my video, I want to say thank you to each and every one of you guys. I really appreciate it. Sound off in the comments. I'm curious to know what you think and how you feel about the situation. As always, I ask that you keep it respectable and cute. If not, I will not hesitate to block you. I will not hesitate to delete your comments. On my platform, I do believe everyone is entitled to their own opinions, but I will not tolerate ignorance. So until next time, later.